Ladies and gentlemen, we are living through an amazing time. I say this because Berklee College of Music has finally recognized the laptop and a controller as an official field of study. Now for me, this is extremely validating. If you know the channel, you know I am a controllerist. I'm an electronic musician. I create live electronic music performances. That's what I do. And previously, there was nowhere I could really study that, or no higher education had ever really recognized that as a real field of study. Now that's not to say it hasn't been happening. Obviously electronic music performance and laptop musicians are taking over, but finally higher education is recognizing this as a real form of study. And that's important for a lot of reasons, but I'm also weary of this. Now this is long overdue, but I can sort of understand why it took so long. Now, live electronic music performance is a growing field, but what you have at the higher education level is the option to go study classical music, jazz music. There's some options out there for contemporary music. And then if you want to do any type of electronic music, it usually gets lumped into audio production. Now, if you know me and you know my channel, this is not an audio production channel. My channel is much more centered around performance, which is closer to somebody who studies guitar or somebody who studies piano. So higher education has always been slightly confused about what to do with people like me. And I experienced this. I didn't go to Berklee, but I went to a state university and studied music, where I was sort of lumped into a composition category, but even that didn't make a lot of sense. But I think higher education has a harder time keeping up with what's contemporary. I'm also sure that there's a lot of feelings. I mean, I know that there are tons of professors and people involved in higher education that just look down upon the study of electronic music in general. I think they think it degrades what they do as classical or jazz musicians, and it really doesn't at all, but that's just something generational that comes up every time something new comes along. So this is very exciting because Berklee is obviously very influential in the world of music education. So my hope is that state universities like the one I went to, colleges, private schools, will all follow suit. They'll start offering similar programs. They call this the EDI program, the Electronic Digital Instrument. It's comprised of a computer, user-configured software, and a controller. Like, that's a perfect framework. But with the current infrastructure of higher education, does it make sense? Can they support a field of study like this? The curriculum around a program like this has to involve performance, it has to involve production, and it has to treat it like its own private instrument instruction. And I'm sure there are experts in each of these fields available to teach course curriculum, but is there anybody who can cover all of these elements and combine them to create thriving electronic music performance students? I'm worried that there may be a disconnect between the performance and the production aspect. If the production professors don't understand that they're teaching production to a group of performers, and it's a completely different adaptation to use production in performance than it is in a traditional studio setting, there's going to be a disconnect in the curriculum. And maybe a school like Berklee will have no trouble finding faculty to teach this because they're so influential and so high profile, but does that mean state schools get pushed to the wayside and can't offer such dynamic programming? Hopefully not. There's also the fact that most people in this field are self-educated. So is the higher education sphere going to be comfortable with hiring people to teach this curriculum at a college who may not even have a degree in that field of study? So the schools need to be comfortable with hiring people who are experts in the field but may not necessarily have that piece of paper to back it up. It always comes up in conversation. You know, I work in music education and I work with actually students from Berklee College of Music. And it comes up in my field all the time. Oh, what instrument do you play? And the easy answer for me is, oh, I play guitar, I play piano, I sing. I didn't study those. I studied voice a little bit in college, but not to the extent of a vocal major or a guitar major. That's a completely different animal. What I really studied was the laptop and my controllers. And even with that, I had to fight that all 4 years I was at college. People not thinking that that was a legitimate form of study. The chair of the music department during my senior year of college told me that if I wanted to be a composer, I had to master all the instruments. He didn't like what I had to say after that comment, and I was thrown out of his office. Luckily, that was my senior year, and I was able to just continue on doing what I was doing and get out while I could. but I fear for the other students left at that university, that they may be stuck in this contrived idea of what music is. Music is not just classical or jazz, and that's what music education tends to focus on. State universities especially should be places of new, contemporary ideas and an exchange of ideas, a place where you can feel safe trying something new. But when the bureaucracy of a college and the notions of an old world get in the way of new ideas, it becomes extremely dangerous. And that's why this day is so important. That's why Berklee recognizing a laptop and a controller as an instrument in a field of study is so important. There's no excuses for other schools now. And this will mean so much to the kids who are approaching the age to be in college and want to go study something that maybe they don't want to learn the piano, maybe they love making music on their laptop. And previously there was no way to go study that. So now parents who are probably already a little trepidatious about sending their kids to a college for music can feel that there's some legitimacy in what their child wants to do, and that child can feel validated and go on to do what they love and express their art the way it comes naturally to them. Anyway, so those are just my thoughts. I'm feeling extremely validated myself and very hopeful for what the future holds in music education and electronic music. What do you think? Is this conversation relevant? Does higher education still have a place in the field of electronic music? Let me know what you think in a comment below. If you're new to this channel, I create live electronic music performances, tutorials, and free sound packs. So if you click that subscribe button, that's what you'll be seeing in your feed. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.